We continue our discussion now with political analyst Ralph Machek on the current phenomenon that continues to be a trend across the provinces where ANC branches reject the outcomes of elective conferences. So Ralph, let's move on to the Free State now, because that one is an interesting one. So we saw KZN, we saw what happened there, and that has been nullified. Eastern Cape we're going to get to now, but I want to talk Free State because Free State should have already had their conference. The PEC should have been done and wrapped up. I think the date that was given was August 11th, and that was with a 90-day period in between that. But what they are saying is that, you know, the auditing results were what were delaying it, and so they'll go ahead and have something in November. Is this good enough? What do you make of what's going on in the Free State?
The Free State is very interesting. The Free State is having a second go at this. Remember, far back before the 2012 conference in Mangaung, the Free State has had a similar challenge that went to court, actually. Members who were disgruntled before the 2012 went to court, and I don't think their issue has been resolved since then. So they've been mobilizing throughout. The thing is that what we are seeing in Free State is that members of ANC, they know exactly how to lose a conference and how to disrupt a conference. They are learning from the previous experience. They know that if they allow for the provincial, the PEC to go on, it is almost a guarantee for a particular faction later on. But the strategy in Free State is so perfected because they've been to court before, that is back in 2012. And now what you are seeing is this standoff between the factions in the Free State. Yeah. But I also think, Leon, that maybe there is something that was said at the policy conference of the ANC this year in June, that there was a proposal that went to the effect that the PECs need not necessarily nominate. What that means is that there seems to be an attempt to remove the institutional responsibility of the PEC because there is a realization that they tend to overwhelm the branches. There was an idea that power need to go back to the branches, unfettered, clear as it is, without any domination by the PECs. But we know that actually provinces, we know that the lobbying takes place from regional to actually PEC level where they are lobbying the branches. Yeah. That is what is happening at the Free State. I went to Free State some months ago, seen what is happening, the mood on the ground and so forth. You can see that there is a clear sense of mistrust between the two factions that exist in the Free State. And they are willing to test that in court.
And the loggerheads between Ace Magashule and, of course, the former mayor, Thabo Manyoni, you know, that's a big issue too.
That is a big issue. I mean, Mr. Manyoni is no longer the mayor there, and I think he's no longer believes that he has been kicked out from the center of power because of his relationship with Mr. Magashule, and he has been vowing to actually uproot Mr. Magashule's legacy, which he terms to characterize as a legacy of corruption in the Free State. So you have these fights that are emerging within the Free State, but in Free State, I would say the conflict are more polished. They are at an advanced level. They are not at the level where people are still throwing chairs. At least they are going to court in Free State. They went to court in 2012, and I would imagine why there is a standoff now is that there is a fear that the other group might approach the court if they are not satisfied with the process.
All right. In the interest of time, let's move on to the Eastern Cape now, because that was horrific. What we saw happening in the PEC in Eastern Cape, with chairs being thrown, members being booted out, people being rushed off to hospital. I mean, these are scenes that nobody wants to witness. Your leadership, your people that are meant to be leading your province, having to behave in this certain manner. What's happening there? Again, in East London, the court struck it off the roll, the urgent case, challenging those results. What breeds so much intolerance to actually get to these physical levels?
It is because of resources. At the center of this, it's a question of distribution of resources, and the factions within the ANC are actually delineated along the lines of access to resources. I mean, what you have seen in the Eastern Cape, I don't think is an isolated case. You can expect to see something like that at the elective conference of the ANC. And the reality is that those people who are doing what we have seen on the footages in the Eastern Cape, they are the same people that are going to go to the elective conference. The problem here is that you just don't have a middle line. It's a zero-sum game where the win by others is the demise by the others. So there is just no consensus. And unfortunately, at the center of all this, Leon, is that the ANC's internal processes of dealing with conflict have collapsed totally. Members of ANC have got no trust or confidence in their own internal processes.
Ralph, finally, can the ANC self-correct? Can we see going into December some form of correction, that I mean, it's around the corner, and we are seeing so much turmoil running up to this. Is it normal, this turmoil ahead of this elective conference, or is this something that we've never necessarily had to deal with before?
It goes far back. It's Polokwane. The problems were not resolved. Mangaung problems were not resolved. They got to be institutionalized within the party to a point where they actually overwhelm the internal processes of the party. Can the ANC self-correct? I don't think so. I think it is becoming a wishful thinking that the ANC can self-correct. At least not while they are in power. They need more time out of power to actually rekindle relationship with their constituency. Being in government, perhaps it is too demanding, doesn't give them time to actually self-correct, but they cannot do it under the current conditions. They will have to get a better space to self-correct, and that space, I think, exists outside power.
All right, Ralph, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you very much for talking to us here on the program. Your prediction for the next ANC leader?
It's going to be tough. It's one of those races that you just going to win a crisis. You'll have to bring back the party after that. I still think, though, that if you look at the branches, I still think NDZ is still leading. But I still think that the media just loves CR17.
They possibly do, but your prediction, because there's Dlamini Zuma, next president of the ANC. Let's see what happens. December's around the corner, as we keep on saying. All right, let's take a